Okay, good morning everyone. This is Gil, and this is kind of a version of Gil's Kitchen. However, we're going to be cleaning fish today. And today's, what we're going to be doing is cleaning a fish that has a very, very soft skin. And when you're filleting these fish, it's easy to cut through the skin. And a lot of people, it's a real pain in the derriere. I talk to a lot of fishermen, that catch fish and they want to fillet them, they want to take the skin off of them. But with these really soft skinned fish, soft skin means their skin is delicate and they have very delicate scales. It ain't like a sheephead or a drum or something like that. It's got really big scales, big redfish. Those are easy to fillet and not cut through the skin. But these really soft skinned fish, it can be a real pain in the butt. So what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to quickly and successfully clean and fillet and take the skin off without cutting through the skin, or at least reduce the possibility you're going to cut through the skin, by 90%. So here we go. Now the fish we're going to be cleaning today is a local favorite here in the Panhandle of Florida on the Gulf of Mexico side, especially in the fall and winter months. And it's the sand sea trout. Now, I caught these yesterday. I've had them on ice. Now, if they stay on ice, everyone that fishes for these fish know that if you don't clean them right away, and I didn't clean these right away, that they'll kind of get soft on you, which makes it even harder to clean them, and take the skin off. Now, that's a very delicate skin, and those scales are really small, okay? Very, very small. So when you take this fish and cut the fillet off and lay that fillet over, when you take that fillet knife and you're trying to get that meat off of it, probably 60% of the time, 70% of the time, you wind up cutting through the skin, and then you have to flip it over and you have to mess with it, and it's just a pain in the butt. Now, the super skilled folks that can fillet, this may not be an issue. But for most of us it is, and it is for me. Now, well, how do we solve this? Okay. Well, what I do first is after the fish are in the cooler for a while, they get a slime on them. They're really slimy. So the first thing I do is I always wash the slime off. I get that slime off of them. Okay? And it comes off pretty easy. I don't know if you can see that slime on that fish, but there's a lot of slime on him. So I wash it off, get that slime off. And these are about average size sand sea trout. Now locally, here in this area, they call them white trout. Over, Mobile, all along the Mississippi coast, they call them white trout. Now if you go down and down in Florida, from Tampa, down, a lot of people start calling them yellowmouths. And the reason they do that, the local name for the fish is a yellowmouth, is because, they have a yellow mouth. But I want you to take a good look at this fish, especially, when I show him like this, because all you speckled trout fishermen, you're going to like, well, dang, if you look at him like that, that looks like a speckled trout. Well, this is the first cousin to a speckled trout, okay? Anatomically, the fish is virtually identical to a speckled trout, except it doesn't have spots. Now, I'll make this claim, and I know a lot of people that have delicate taste buds are going to say BS, but when it comes to this fish going on the plate, in my book, he's just as good as a speckled trout. As a matter of fact, I challenge anyone to be able to tell the difference between this fish and a speckled trout when it comes to putting them on the plate to eat. Okay? It's just very hard. There's two big differences in these fish as far as the fish going after them and fishing for them. The white trout or sand sea trout doesn't get near as big as a speckled trout. And the second thing is here in Florida, I think you can keep 7 speckled trout, and you can keep 100 pounds of these. So, okay, if you want to eat fish, And you going to fish for speckled trout, or you going to fish for white trout? Okay, something to think about. All right, so how are we going to clean this fish with this super soft skin and not cut through the skin? How are we going to do that? All right, well, about as easy as it gets, and I'm sure other people have already thought about this, but if you haven't, here we go. All right, when I clean this fish, I use 2 knives. All right, obviously a big filleting knife, surgically sharp, okay, but I use a second knife, okay, and this knife most people would consider dull, okay. In other words, you're going to cut a tomato with this, probably going to have to put a little pressure on it to get through the tomato skin. Okay, well, why do you use 2 knives? Well, I'm going to take the fillet off with this one. Slide right through the bone, cut right. These are soft fish. You know, a lot of times I say never cut bone with your fillet knife. This is kind of an exception because these bones in these fish are so soft. The blade just slides right through them. Okay? But the real secret is this knife. This is the knife I use to take the skin off. A dull knife. Okay? And there's also a trick to this that I'll show you. Let's start with the smallest of these fish, this little bitty one. Really tender, super tender skin. So what I do is you can see how easy that knife just cuts right down on that fillet. Okay? So I turn my knife just like any fillet guy will do, and I cut the right there. Now, here's a trick that I'm teaching you. Once you get about right there, flip that up, and what you want to do is you want to reach in this fish and pull the air bladder out. This is the thing that gets in the way. When you flip this fish on the other side and try to take this fillet off, this air bladder gets in the way, and it's a lot of times you cut the fillet in half trying to get past this air bladder, because believe it or not, this air bladder is like a rubber band. I mean, the knife does not, even a sharp knife does not cut through this because it gives. It won't cut, it gives. So what you do is you pull that air bladder out of the way. That's kind of one of the little tricks. And you finish the fillet off. Okay? Small fillet, flip the fish over, and just repeat the procedure. Super sharp knife. Now see, that air bladder is out of the way. The knife doesn't get engaged with the air bladder, and the fillet comes off really easy. Okay? Now, I want to cut the rib cage out of this. I don't use my filleting knife for this because to cut the rib cage off, you're going to be cutting like this, and you're going to be dulling your good sharp fillet knife on the wood. So I don't use this one. What I do is I use the dull knife, and I just go down to the skin, each side like that, and you can see right here that this knife is so dull it did not cut through the skin. Even though I went like that, it didn't cut through the skin. So what I do now is I just grab the fillet, and basically I use the fillet to just tear it off just like that. Comes right off. Okay? Did not cut through the skin, still there, and all I do is just tear it off. Like that. Throw that away. And now, this delicate little piece of meat. Okay? There. And you see how that comes? That meat just peels right off that skin. Dull knife does not cut through the skin. That's kind of the way you do it. You can see that knife is not unlikely, unless you really bear down hard and you don't want to do that. A delicate little piece of meat. There's the skin. So once you get a little practice with this, I mean, it goes quick. All right. Now you see, now that stopped. That's a super sharp knife. Why did that stop? See, it's not going anywhere. The reason is it hit that air bladder. So what you do is you reach in, pull the air bladder out, And then the knife will continue on unimpeded. Nice sharp fillet knife. The air bladder's out of the way. Turn the fish over and repeat. Repeat and repeat.